Good afternoon. Today's September 22nd, 2025. The council briefing meeting will come to order. The time is 2:02 p.m. I am Councilmember Maritza Rivera, serving as Council President Pro Tem today. Council President Nelson is excused from this meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Saka?
Here.
Councilmember Solomon?
Here.
Councilmember Strauss?
Here.
Councilmember Hollingsworth? Councilmember Juarez? Councilmember Kettle?
Here.
Councilmember Rink?
Present.
And President Pro Tem Rivera.
Present.
6 present.
Thank you, clerk. If there's no objection, the minutes of September 15th, 2025 will be adopted. Okay, let the record reflect Councilmember Juarez has joined us. Hearing no objection, the minutes are adopted. All right, there are no proclamations for signature today, but we do have 3 executive sessions today. We will begin our next discussion on the preview of City Council actions and council and regional committees, and the order of discussion is established by the rotated roll call for City Council meetings, which is designated alphabetically by last name and with the Council President called last. This week's roll call rotation begins with Councilmember Saka. Councilmember Saka, please begin, and then hand it over to Councilmember Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam President Pro Tem. I think that's the official title. So, colleagues, good afternoon. On the Transportation Committee front, happy to report that last week we passed a number of bills out of committee that are going to be before us tomorrow at full council. Just to flag a few here of the exciting pieces of legislation that made it out of committee last week. There was a district project fund resolution and proviso lift, a transformative piece of legislation that reflects a first of its kind, first in the nation piece of legislation to stand up a new e-cargo bike permit program. And then there was also some fairly ministerial technical legislation regarding a name change for a railroad entity. On the external committee front, there is a PSRC executive board meeting on Thursday that I will not be joining, excused for budget purposes. Out in the community, in other news, had a few exciting meetings recently over the past week with elected officials, specifically Seattle Municipal Court presiding judge Anita Crawford Willis, also my legislative counterpart at King County Council, the District 8 representative, King County Council member Teresa Mosqueda. So had some terrific conversations with both of each of those individuals, and I appreciate their partnership and working so closely with me in my office on any number of our shared priorities and issues impacting our shared communities. Also had a terrific meeting last week with some folks from our Local 27, specifically the International Association of Firefighters. Local 27 visited Station 10 in Pioneer Square last week to discuss, among other things, ongoing staffing challenges. But the firefighters report that while demand for services and Seattle's population have grown, staffing levels have not always kept pace, but they are doing terrific work, and it was good to see some of the work they're doing firsthand and meet a lot of their members individually firsthand. Good to check in with our Local 27 folks. Also in the community, had a great meeting last week with some members from the Highland Park area, some leaders of the Highland Park area. Specifically, I went and toured and visited the Highland Park Improvement Club, the former site of the Highland Park Improvement Club, which was tragically lost to fire in June of 2021 after standing for more than 100 years. Even in its absence, this site and the construct of a rebuilt Improvement Club for Highland Park remains a cornerstone of the community. Many members of the Highland Park community and myself remain committed to rebuilding it. So looking forward to supporting those efforts. Also had a terrific meeting with the Seattle social housing developer CEO, Roberto Jimenez, earlier today, where, among other things, we discussed how we can best work together and how the council can support the work, particularly in the early stages. Excited to be able to meet later this week with the co-chairs of the Seattle Renters Commission. My office has previously met with and engaged with them on a number of things, particularly over the last month and a half as we move through some of the fast-moving MFTE legislation, but looking forward to engaging with them directly. Finally, I shall note that had a terrific time after our marathon series of comp plan related votes on Friday. Went and visited, watched, first off as a fan, but watched a big rivalry game in West Seattle between West Seattle High School and Chief South International High School, one of the biggest rivalry football games in all the city of Seattle. And it was Battle of Seattle, if you will, Battle of West Seattle, and Battle of the Peninsula, hard-fought game. I saw a kicker kick a 52-yard field goal, 52-yard field goal from Chief South. High school kid kicked a 52-yard field goal. I see college kids and professionals miss those all the time. But in the end, so it was a fun game. In the end, West Seattle prevailed. West Seattle High School prevailed, and I was honored to present them with a trophy, well, the Healing Bowl trophy, and then I presented both teams before that with a proclamation. But fun community event, and reminded me, it's been 25 plus years since I've been to a high school football game, and reminded me how rowdy and energetic those things can be. But in any event, good to share or spend some time in the community after such a long comp plan focused conversation. So that concludes my report. I welcome any comments or questions. If not, I shall pass it off to the next person.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Saka. So, Land Use Committee. We will have 4 bills coming before the council tomorrow, including the Roots to Roofs bonus pilot program, design review legislation, and legislation related to a parcel rezone in Uptown. There will be 2 upcoming special Land Use Committee meetings, one on October 10th, one on October 31st, where there will be a public hearing about SEPA housing threshold legislation, and we're looking at a couple of appointments as well. Recent activity last week, the reason I was not present for most of the week was I attended the 47th annual Crime Prevention and Community Engagement Conference hosted by the Washington State Crime Prevention Association. We're in Vancouver, Washington. Colleagues, this event has been on the book or was on the books for well over a year. And I want to thank Councilmember Hollingsworth, her staff, my policy director, Thaddeus Gregory, for their work making sure that District 2 priorities were reflected in the chair's package of amendments. And I want to thank all my colleagues for their hard work and your perseverance for all the commentary, all the long votes. Especially want to thank Chair Hollingsworth for the way she shepherded this entire process. Looking forward to the final vote on this legislation in the coming weeks. We had staff attend the Southeast Effective Development fundraiser on Thursday. I myself attended the Tabor 100 Gala on Saturday evening. And just this morning, I met with members of the Estelle P. Patch volunteers and neighbors regarding some of the infrastructure and safety issues that they have going on down in that community. In the week ahead, we'll be meeting with Evergreen Treatment Services, Seattle Metropolitan Chamber, B Seattle, King County Bars, Housing Justice Project, and Catholic Community Services. We'll be attending the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration and attending the Graham Street Block Party on Saturday. So, quite frankly, that's it. In a nutshell, I welcome any questions or comments. Hearing none, I pass it over to the gentleman from Ballard.
Thank you. And Green Lake, Greenwood, Crown Hill, Magnolia, Loyal Heights, many other micro neighborhoods, and an honor to serve the entire city of Seattle. Thank you.
Fair enough. Yes,
I can be kind. So, in Finance, Native Communities, and Tribal Governments Committee last Tuesday, I was honored to get to join tribal leaders, city officials, and community partners in the second ever Tribal Nations Summit. And thank you, Council Member Juarez, for being there and moderating. Tribal leaders engaged directly with city officials and engage in government-to-government work. It was really amazing to see elected tribal leaders and officials from the city of Seattle sitting at the same table, working through problems and getting stuff done. It has also been great to see that the work was benchmarked from the first one. Work has continued to take place, and there seems to be even more energy to continue tackling the issues that have been raised. So big thank you to Francesca Murnan and the whole team at Pyramid for making this happen. We will be presenting outcomes and doing more quarterly check-ins on the different buckets in the Finance, Native Communities, and Tribal Governments Committee. You may or may not be aware this does mark the transition into budget. So I'm excited that starting this week, we will have city department presentations, and let me pull out my list right here. So this Thursday is going to be public comment. We'll have an introduction from central staff and an overview from CBO. We'll then jump into, in the afternoon, issues about federal backfill and proposed sales tax proposals. On Friday, we'll have Office of Planning Community Development, Office of Sustainability and Environment, Seattle Parks and Recreation in the morning, and SDOT in the afternoon. Next Monday will be Public Safety Day. In the morning, we'll have Seattle Police Department, CARE Fire Department. In the afternoon, we'll have Human Services Department. On Tuesday, September 30th, my father's birthday, happy birthday, Dad, we will have Office of Housing, Seattle Center, Office of Economic Development in the morning, and Arts and SDCI in the afternoon. Colleagues, if there is a department that is within the committee that you chair, we will take throughout all of budget, you will be shepherding their work, right? So if we have presentations from central staff about issues that they've identified, you'll have an opportunity in committee to speak to those issues, do an introduction and a closing at the end. Same with when they come to present, I'll call on you first, once we get to questions and answers, to lead us in and lead us through. So that's this week. There will be public comment accepted on September 25th, and then we will have public comment at the beginning of each section of the budget. So, colleagues, I'm sure you've all seen these beautiful charts. At the beginning of each section, we'll have public comment. We will also have 2 public hearings, and we're going to structure them differently than we did last year, taking a note from Chair Hollingsworth's comprehensive plan public hearings, where we started virtual public hearings earlier in the day, and that shortened our evenings. So those are the previews. We'll be excited to receive the budget tomorrow. Central staff may be most likely working from home for these next 2 weeks, diving into the budget, and they are available for your questions. As always, we'll be using Robert's Rules of Order, and this year I've got a little cheat sheet that I use, and I was just going to make photocopies and print them out for you all until I saw the notice that says don't make photocopies. This is proprietary information. So we've gotten, I ordered and received a number of copies of this cheat sheet, so I'll leave them at your dais desk. For instance, if folks say point of order, and I'm guilty of this too, right? Like there's no finger pointing here. Point of order, it's not just like we launch in, it is what is the point? And then there's a specific way that we can walk through that point of order. It helps the flow of the committee, and that's about it. For full council tomorrow, we'll have the Sound Transit 3 staffing enhancements. This is a really important piece of legislation because we are already receiving an influx of permits from Sound Transit, and the bow wake will soon hit. So we have 8 positions of the 40 that we are hiring, and it is an allowance to start hiring these positions. This is an incredibly important bill because if we as the city don't do everything that we can to quicken the timeline, Sound Transit it'll take longer for them to deliver service to us. It will also cost more. And so it's really critical that we as the city of Seattle demonstrate for our other municipalities how we do work. And so far, we've already cut red tape, and now we need to hire the staff to process the paper even faster. Sound Transit that's for full council tomorrow. In my role on the Sound Transit Board, we continue to go through the enterprise process, which is looking not only at what can we deliver in the capital department, but how do we improve our services for just operations across the board. We had a robust conversation about West Seattle. I think I gave a brief. I know I talked to you, Councilmember Saka, about it afterwards. There are some good cost-saving measures. There are some bad cost-saving measures. That work will happen. Final decisions about any realignments or any of that will happen next year, so not this year. In District 6, I spent my typical office hours times this month meeting with residents about comp plan, and so I am continuing to try to find some time to meet with residents before budget really takes full swing. And for those that have signed up today, for people who sign up from here on, I will be waiting until December when I do my annual 21-hour marathon of office hours, just so that I can stay focused on budget. That's my report, colleagues. Any questions?
Thank you, Councilmember Strauss, and I want to note for the record that Councilmember Hollingsworth is excused from today's council briefing. Councilmember Juarez, you're up next. Thank you.
Mike, wasn't expecting that, so I thought you were going to say, going to hand it over to the good lady of D5. So apparently I didn't get that, but that's okay. I'm going to repeat a little bit of what Councilmember Strauss said, just to add a little bit more. Last week, again, as Councilmember Strauss stated, we had our second Tribal Nation Summit, and we hosted 10 tribal nations and over 120 tribal and city leaders, including in attendance 20 tribal leaders and staff from the regions of federally recognized tribes, 10 indigenous-led organizational leaders, Chief Seattle Club, Seattle Indian Health Board, Seattle Indian Services, United Indians of All Tribes, and of course the Indigenous Advisory Council staff was representing Chief Seattle Club, Rise Above, Hummingbird, and other Native American groups that make up the IAC. And the IAC has 8 members, in which 3 are elected tribal leaders. So we had 70 city leaders, department directors and staff. We had 3 representatives from Seattle Public School, 3 people, including former Mayor's Office Tim Rand from the Governor's Office of Indian Affairs, 3 people from the federal delegation staff, and of course the Indigenous Advisory Council members. All 8 of them attended. I want to thank, first of all, Councilmember Strauss, who chairs Finance, Native Communities, and Tribal Governments, for hosting and putting this together, and 5 of my city council members who did attend, as they all tried to rotate in and out. That really meant a lot to tribal leadership and tribal governments and indigenous-led organizations. I just want to also thank Councilmember Strauss, because he worked with me a while back to create the Indigenous Advisory Council, to establish and fund the Indigenous Advisory Council, and to situate it in Department of Neighborhoods. And that was no easy task, but it got done. So the conversations at the summit were collaborative, urgent, and solutions-oriented. Mayor Harrell set the tone by asking city department directors to speak to what they would commit to and what they would work for. And that actually changed the whole tone. People made commitments. At the summit, it was repeatedly stated that our entire community benefits when Indigenous organizations lead solutions for issues such as homelessness and I think they meant addiction, not addition. I think we know how to add, where Native people are overrepresented. Our office will continue to work with OIR and OED to stand up a Tribal Nations Economic Summit in 2026. We'll also collaborate with OIR and SPD on a Tribal Nations Public Safety Summit next year. I want to thank Chief Barnes, who was there, as well as Chief Scogans and Chief Barden from CARE, all 3 of them in leadership. You showing up and being there, it just so it really gets to the heart of sovereignty and government to government. On the Public Safety Summit, we're excited about that. We want to explore potential MOUs or interlocal agreements regarding jurisdiction, criminal jurisdiction, and more importantly, to target missing, murdered Indigenous people, women and girls. I want to thank Mina Hashima from OIR, who put this together, along with Francesca Merman from DON, and Office of Economic Development. A huge shout out to Director Markham McIntyre, who has been talking to me for a few years now about a economic summit where we invite and finally have tribal leadership working with OED to bring tribal money, if you just will, if I could just be that candid, because instead of doing land acknowledgements, we should actually be inviting the folks whose this is their land to participate in Seattle's economy and provide economic engines, not just for tribal folks, but for everyone who lives in our great city. So at the Tribal Nations Summit, the mayor announced more than $9 million in new investments in Indigenous-led organizations, including the Seattle Indian Health Board Thunderbird Treatment Center, $1.8 million, which will be a 92-bed residential treatment facility offering expanded behavioral health services rooted in cultural traditions. Thank you, Director Esther Lacero. And we hope to close that funding gap. They requested more, but we're going to work with the chair, with the budget chair, so we can close that gap and we can get this Thunderbird treatment, which has been around for about 25, 30 years, at full capacity. Also for the Seattle Indian Service Commission, working with Director Colleen Echohawk in the mayor's office, $500,000 for the demolition of the Seattle Indian Service Commission's Pearl Warren building as part of the new transit-oriented development in Little Saigon neighborhood with affordable housing and commercial space. This is a long time coming. Thank you, Colleen Echohawk, for working with the mayor's office and our office and all the other Indigenous-led organizations to recognize that we do need to pretty much tear down the Pearl Warren building, but put in its place housing in a neighborhood that needs more housing and services and commercial space. Also, the Tribal Interpretive Center and Waterfront Operations, the mayor's office has designated $7 million. This investment makes progress towards fulfilling commitments made through a memorandum of understanding with the Muckleshoot Indian Tribe during the Elliott Bay seawall construction, and that's been going on as long as I've been here. I again want to share my appreciation for my fellow council members who collaborated and compromised on the comprehensive plan. I know that was a lot of work, and a big shout out to the chair, Chair Hollingsworth. She was spinning a lot of plates in the air, a lot of amendments coming in, but we got there, and that's what's important. We will continue to work with state representatives to address the impact of the closure of the Fred Meyer and Lake City Way. That is not going away, and we hope to keep making progress there. Saturday, because I couldn't go to the Tabor dinner, I joined the United Indians of All Tribes Gala Saturday. We were celebrating 55 years of Daybreak Star. Dr. Mike Tooley, who's Yakima, is the CEO or the ED at Daybreak Star United Indians, and we raised money for the Daybreak Star community and building and all the folks that use the Daybreak Star facility. Very exciting news here. I know Councilmember Strauss is at the edge of his seat. Our first North Star Gazette is coming back. So yeah, we'll also have a pet of the week. So if those of you want to give us a picture of your cat or dog or hamster, duck, we'll go ahead and we'll put that in the newsletter. The North Star. It's called the North Star. I don't have my face on it, trust me. Upcoming, we're going to get the mayor's budget tomorrow, and we will continue to work with the chair, Councilmember Strauss, the mayor's office, and Mr. Eder to make sure that we recognize as many needs as we can across the city, and of course, my district, District 5, and Indigenous-led organizations. Second and lastly, the King County Regional Housing Authority Governing Board meeting on Friday. We'll be there. I will be there, where we will be briefed on the continuum of care updates and Mayor Harrell's advancing regionalism resolution, which I think he's basically saying we're either going to move forward as a region or maybe not, because the city of Seattle does contribute the majority amount of money to the King County Regional Housing Authority. And that's it, Chair, Madam Chair Pro Tem, lady.
Thank you, Councilmember Juarez. Any questions, colleagues? Just before we move on to Councilmember Kettle.
Thank you, Chair Pro Tem. Thank you, lady, for that. As always, starting off with the Public Safety Committee, we do have a meeting tomorrow morning. It's our last before budget, sneaking it in. We'll have 3 nominees for the Community Police Commission. 2 are returning, and then importantly, 1 is be joining us on the CPC and is coming under the City Council, and that's Mr. Rick Williams, brother of John T. Williams. And as I've been saying, related to the consent decree, it's a milestone and a stepping stone. And having Mr. Williams join the CPC it's kind of emblematic of that stepping stone of moving forward and continuing to move forward. So that's first item of business. We also had the City Attorney's Office with some legislation pieces related to aligning the RCW, the Revised Code of Washington, basically state law, with the SMC, in this case, the our code. And so it's basically like for like, and this is really important in terms of the functioning criminal justice system. And then we have the other SMC, the Seattle Municipal Court, and we have a piece of legislation related to pro tem judges and lifting the requirement that they live in Seattle, which has become a little bit of a restraint, and so that's that piece of legislation. And then finally, a briefing on community safety. It's really important, as I've been saying, to broaden what we're doing and then really understanding what is happening in the community safety space, because it is part of public safety, and it's like another version of alternative response, but at that grassroots, on the ground, neighborhood level, and I think that's very important. So that will be the Public Safety Committee meeting. In terms of my calendar, like this week, I'd like to start off with a Kamsahamnida, a thank you to a delegation from the City of Daejeon Metropolitan City Council. There were 6 members of the Daejeon, Korea City Council here that had a great opportunity to meet and speak with. And Daejeon, they have some similarities to Seattle. It's part of the tech center of Korea, much like we are here in America. And really enjoyed meeting with the group, and also a little bit with my colleague, Councilmember Strauss. Tomorrow, we have our West Precinct Advisory Council meeting in Belltown. This is turning into an annual big event with a lot of speakers from city government, to include myself, also members of, obviously, the West Precinct and the executive. This Thursday, as Councilmember Saka mentions, the Puget Sound Regional Council, the executive, basically board. Of course, we have a conflict, as he noted. And colleagues, I should add, I also have an ad hoc meeting related to the PSRC. This ad hoc is a new item for me, and it's basically a committee to do a review of the PSRC itself. So we're looking at the different bodies of the PSRC, membership, the balancing, talking about regionalism, how that plays, and the different pieces of the region of the 4 counties that are part of the PSRC. And so that will be on Thursday. Friday, the Domestic Violence Prevention Council meeting, which has become a staff-led effort, will be meeting, and I'll be following up on that. For next week, be meeting with the Seattle Human Services Coalition and Gender-Based Violence, tying in back to the DVPC, but also Community Passageways. And on Thursday, tying into what Councilmember Orris was talking about with the KCRHA, I'll have a meeting with the King County Council and my counterparts related to non-congregate shelters as part of the KCRHA, but also the county, because at the end of the day, we need to build capacity in our city. And one will be in Lake City and work in the other. And I think this is really important because, as the mayor said last week at the 0.1% public safety sales tax, I don't know where he got it from, but in his speech he noted that public safety and public health are 2 sides of the same coin. I'm not sure where that thought came from, but it's important. And we really need to do this. And I also note, as you noted, we have to do this in a regional way, and we have to show that we can do it in a regional way. We have to show that we can get the job done, so therefore to attract the other jurisdictions in the county to participate fully in what we're doing through the vehicle of KCRHA. And colleagues, lastly, I just end, everybody had a busy weekend. Saturday, I was at the Seattle Police Department's Retired Officers Association banquet, meeting the retired officers, many of whom I've met in different ways over the years. And it was really good to see what the issues are, the history, and some of the different pieces that are there with the police department. So I want to thank the association for inviting me and for the opportunity to attend. And with that, I do believe
Councilmember Rink.
Councilmember
Rink is next.
Thank you, colleagues. I will actually be yielding my time today in the interest of time. I understand we have a few executive sessions ahead of us. So I will be yielding my time and encourage any of the listening public to keep an eye out for a newsletter we should be getting out tonight that will be in-depth and full of information. So with that, I yield my time. Thank you, Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilmember Rink. All right, colleagues, I am up next. All right. Before I talk about my last week and this week, I wanted to highlight, colleagues, that today is the eve of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. Lashana Tova to our Jewish residents in the D4 and across the city celebrating the New Year. Rosh Hashanah is the holiday right before Yom Kippur, which is the most important holiday in the Jewish community. Rosh Hashanah itself is a time of self-reflection, encouraging personal growth, asking for forgiveness, and making positive resolutions for the year to come. Colleagues, our country, our state, and our city have seen a worrying rise in reports and acts of anti-Semitism. I encourage our Seattle community to pause and reflect upon our shared values and the goal of peace. Let us avoid the trap of othering those who may believe differently from us. There is no room for acts of hate such as anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and anti-immigrant sentiments in our city and in our country for that matter. We all want the same thing, a sense of safety, a sense of peace, and a sense of belonging. Let us resolve collectively to do everything we can to promote that sense of community and belonging in our work and in our lives. All right, colleagues, now I'll get to last week and this week. Last week, I too attended the Tribal Nations Summit, where I listened to the important priorities and goals from our tribal leaders and partners. This government exchange was especially meaningful to me as I sit on the Waira 8 Salmon Recovery Council, work that I know our tribes are involved in and of utmost importance to the community. I also attended the Association of Washington Cities board retreat on Friday, which is why I was remote for Friday's comprehensive plan votes. I've said this before, but it is so educational to speak with the elected leaders of different cities around the state and hear what their challenges and opportunities are and how they are approaching those. I really learn a lot from these meetings and use that knowledge for my work here in Seattle. And of course, last week we were all working hard on the comprehensive plan as well. This past Saturday, I joined Director Jennifer Chow from the Department of Neighborhoods at the Roosevelt Neighborhood Association's Rooted in Roosevelt Community Festival. It was the inaugural celebration in that neighborhood, and it was in part funded with a small Sparks grant from the Department of Neighborhoods as part of the Neighborhood Matching Fund, which is, as you may recall, colleagues, last year I restored because I know that it is something that our neighborhoods and our community members very much rely on and appreciate. Today, I had my recurring meeting with Chief Barnes, where we talked about his community policing goals, which I support. I appreciate his leadership on providing strong communication between SPD and the community and building meaningful community partnerships. I'm aligned with the chief on these goals and look forward to partnering with him in my district. Also, I'm excited that the Department of Neighborhoods is having a Hispanic Heritage Month celebration this Wednesday, the 24th, downstairs in the Bertha Knight Landis room. They have a really fun event planned, and I hope you can all attend. And I also want to take this moment to publicly apologize to my colleagues, Councilmember Juarez and Rink, In the middle of the comp plan busyness and the rush to get the proclamation out on time, I neglected to let them know I was bringing the proclamation. And while we can't have co-sponsors on a proclamation, I should have reached out before the proclamation. This, of course, was not purposeful, and I'm so sorry for that, and I hope they will accept my apology, and I also hope they will join me on Wednesday downstairs to present the proclamation at the Department of Neighborhoods event. So unless anyone has any questions, colleagues, Councilmember Solomon, you look like you might be saying something.
Not a question. I just wanted to make sure that something did get mentioned in the council briefing. I did want to acknowledge that we did have a Housing and Human Services Committee meeting this morning. We did confirm 6 appointments and reappointments to the Seattle Housing Authority Board, and we also passed the MFTE legislation that will be coming to full council. And I want to thank the chair of the committee, Councilmember Juarez, for allowing me to facilitate these meetings so we could get these across the finish line. So thank you very much, Chair Juarez.
Thank you, Councilmember Solomon. Councilmember Strauss?
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Shana Tova to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the good words about our high holy days, and I echo anti-Semitism and Islamophobia have no place in our city, have no place in our nation, and they have no place anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Strauss. Colleagues, any other comments? All right, then, if there's no further business, we will move into the executive session. Hearing no further business, we will now move into an executive session. As presiding officer, I'm announcing that the Seattle City Council will now convene into executive session. The purpose of the executive session is to discuss pending, potential, and actual litigation. The council's executive session is an opportunity for the council to discuss confidential legal matters with city attorneys as authorized by law. A legal monitor from the city attorney's office is always present to ensure the council reserves questions of policy for open session. I expect the time of the executive session to end by 3:49 p.m. If the executive session is to be extended beyond that time, I will announce the extension and the expected duration. At the conclusion of this executive session, this council briefing meeting will automatically adjourn. The next regularly scheduled council briefing meeting is on November 24th, 2025 at 2 p.m. The council is now in executive session. Council members, please log on to the executive session Zoom meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.